Alrighty. So welcome everybody. This is Mark McFadden with Onyx Equities Group. It's been some time since we've had a meeting. Hopefully everyone is doing well. We have with us a guest presenter from Straight Path Ventures, Chris Sullivan. And we're going to go over a couple of our updates on positions and investments that we're in. And this is also going to be posted to our YouTube channel as well. Good evening to everybody. Neil Stewart. As folks come on, I'll just add them into the Zoom call. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you to kind of give us an update on our positions that we're in, and if there's any new positions or any positions that we could actually buy back into as well.
Sure. So good evening, guys. Let's go over the positions first here. We'll start with Impossible Foods. We're in at $35, which is an implied $8 billion valuation now. There's been a lot of talk in regards to them going public, whether it's through a SPAC or the traditional IPO. I'm sure you've seen they've really amped up their advertising, in the recent months. On top of that, just from a business standpoint, rolling out meatless chicken, meatless pork, expanding into new markets and just growing exponentially. But ultimately, what we're waiting for is, either the S1 filing or them filing a deal with a SPAC. Which is their two options that they were exploring either late this fourth quarter or sometime in the first quarter of next year. But they're looking at more than a $10 billion valuation, which is good for us. I think it'll definitely be on the upper end with everything they have going on. And at this point of the business, expanding into all these different countries. And they really grew their business from when we got involved. Next is Just, the Eat Just. And we're in at $20, which is an implied $1.2 billion valuation. Now, their last round of funding was their Series F back in March, and that was at $23.50. And our last offering price was actually at $35 a share. And let me go back, Impossible Foods, our last offering price was at $55. So all these positions were in at great prices compared to our last offerings and even the last rounds of funding out there. Now, Just actually just became the most funded cell-cultured company to date, which shows that the institutions are backing the company. There's a lot of investors with interest getting involved, and they'll be looking at a SPAC, hopefully sometime this quarter as well as the first quarter, same kind of timeline as Impossible Foods at a $3 billion plus valuation. So we're positioned nice at that $1.2 billion valuation there. Now, next is Rubrik. We're in at $50 a share. And there's been a lot going on with Rubrik. Microsoft just made another investment into Rubrik back in August, which was their third investment to date. And Microsoft and Rubrik, they share 2,000 mutual customers, which is very big. And adding into this investment just shows Microsoft believes in Rubrik's product, and it will help them with their own cloud network there and ransomware, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, there's been some acquisition rumors, possibly about whether it's Microsoft or another company, but there has been some talks on an acquisition in regards to Rubrik possibly getting acquired in the private market opposed to an IPO. And in the event of a takeover, if a company did come in and purchase one of the offerings that we have, there is 3 different ways we could receive that buyout offer, which would, one, be an all stock deal where we would receive stock of the company that came in and purchased our company, B, an all cash deal where we'd just be cashed out at the valuation, or C would be a little bit of both, but that's dependent on the terms of the deal. But there has been some acquisition rumors with Rubrik, which is pretty interesting, especially being that a lot of these big tech companies have pledged with our government to invest a lot of money over the next decade into the cybersecurity, side of the sector to protect U.S. businesses.
Hey, Chris, just a quick question. Just to ensure that, folks on the call understand this. So if Rubric is acquired and you gave like the three options, either all stock, all cash, or, kind of like a mix of both. With the all stock, that will be all stock of the actual company that acquires Rubric, correct?
Correct. So example, Microsoft comes in, buys them out through a stock deal, then we would be receiving Microsoft stock, proportion to how the deal is structured and whatnot.
Okay.
So that's, that's pretty interesting. And mergers and acquisitions have been very active, in the last couple of years here, especially in this cybersecurity space. So it does make sense that there could possibly be an acquisition on the line there. Next is Triller, which we're in at a $13.50 price, which represents an implied valuation of 1.6 billion. Our last offering here was at 25, and they were in talks as of July for a direct listing somewhere between a $4 to $5 billion valuation. And as we know with the direct listing, for what that means for us is that there's no restriction on our shares, and the shares that we have and all the shares in the private market are brought to the public market. So there's no additional shares created by any underwriters. And they also said back in July that they had $500 million committed to at a $4 billion valuation in a kind of funding round prior to the direct listing. And they said that they had that committed to by several institutions, which is nice because we're positioned well below that. There has not been any recent news since, those bits of news have come out a couple months ago in the beginning of the summer. But that's good when it comes to direct listing, because that kind of tells us that, they're in their quiet period there. They're kind of getting everything structured on their end. And, we're hoping to see them start trading sometime in this fourth quarter as well. And finally, we have Kraken here, which is one of the more exciting companies in the crypto sector. And we have them at $90, which is an implied $17 billion valuation. They are re-entering the European market, which is big. As of May, they've processed over $420 billion this year, which is significant to their 2020 processing and their transactions. And if you guys get to see, if you followed Coinbase at all, they released their quarter financials, and it was absolutely fantastic. And what's important with that is, all that publicly available data on Coinbase, their trading, their rates, their financials, that allows us to kind of assume that Kraken's market cap in the public market could reach as high as the $40 billion cap, which would show us a significant return from where we're positioned in. They are on track to go public very soon too. Jesse Powell, the CEO, has come out and stated that he is, ready to go public. It's the next step in growing the company and continuing to grow in the rates that they are growing at and make crypto more of a solidified asset in the world. And the next step to do that for their company is going public. So he understands that there's never been a better time for Kraken to go public.
Okay. Hey, Chris, just a quick type of break here. So welcome folks to the call. If you joined late, we are recording the call. It will be posted to the YouTube channel. So if there's any information that you missed at the very beginning, you can go out there. Chris is just kind of giving us a rundown of our current positions under Straight Path. So we've talked about Impossible Foods, Eat Just, Rubric, the actual type of Triller, Kraken, and I think that's it.
Yep, that's it. So out of all the positions we're currently holding, we are anticipating a lot of liquidity events with all these companies. They are on track to go public, whether it's, sometime in the fourth quarter of this year. We're just entering that now. So if we see some filings, within the next coming weeks here, we can get maybe some of these companies going public or getting SPAC'd by December, if not the first quarter of next year. But we definitely are anticipating a lot of these companies to be going public in the upcoming months. So it's definitely exciting. And from where we're positioned at, like I stated earlier, a lot of these companies, there has been offerings a lot higher after we got involved. So it's nice to know that we're positioned at a good price there.
So,
Now,
Chris, let me ask you a question. Does Straight Path do any selling in like the private market, or they wait until it goes to, like the public sector?
yeah, so it's all public. If anyone, any investors wanted to exit the position privately, it's at the price that you paid. So even though a stock may be trading, let's say, double in the case where we actually have, Triller, where our last offering was almost double. If we wanted to exit that position, we have to find a buyer at the price that you had owned it at.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be 1350 opposed to, even though that we were last offering it at 25.
Right. And then can you explain to us a little bit about, I guess, the mechanics of liquidation with Straight Path? Because unlike some other entities that we deal with, we have an actual type of brokerage account kind of set up with them. So when the stock, or when the actual company goes private to public, when we get kind of like the public shares, it goes into the actual brokerage account. How does that work here at Straight Path?
Yeah, so the mechanics are sometimes similar to that. Sometimes they're also a liquidation where the entire position is liquidated and you receive in the forms of cash, and we just cash out, and you can either roll that into a different idea or take the cash and take the profits there. On top of, there is a DTC process where if we hold the shares, they will be DTC to a brokerage account, where you hold the actual shares there and keep them as long as you want.
Okay.
Okay. Now there was, I know I spoke to you earlier, Mark, but I actually got a green light right before this call to go ahead and start offering another company that I'm very familiar with. We were going to get some more shares, and it seems that we were able to get some more shares in. So that's the one that for new offerings that I'm able to discuss tonight, would be Automation Anywhere. And you guys might be familiar with one of their competitors, UiPath, who is publicly traded. They are in the RPA industry, robotic process automation, and they're one of the leaders there. They actually have a 54% market share in that entire sector, which has been growing very fast. So pretty much, to simple down their company, they are able to automate human tasks that could take 5, 10, 15 minutes in just under 10 seconds. So they deploy bots, and they're used in 75% of the Fortune 500 companies, IBM, Oracle, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and that's just to name a few. There are using Automation Anywhere. They've been around since 2003. They're in over 90 countries now. They've deployed over 3 million bots worldwide. They have funding from some high-name institutions like Goldman Sachs, SoftBank, Salesforce. And right now we have the company at a $41 share price, which is a implied $16.8 billion valuation. And they are, as of just a couple of weeks ago, they announced that they will be looking to go public fairly soon here, either the fourth quarter or maybe first quarter of next year. So they're pretty much on track to go ahead and start trading as well. So we're in at that implied $16.8 billion valuation. And from what we could see with this company, with their growth rates, they did $600 million in revenue last year in 2020. And we're assuming that that has increased yet again. The year prior was about $377 million. So they've been growing fairly quick. They're in a sector that's growing very quickly as well, where everything's kind of going, from humans to robots. That's the way the world has been shifting. So they're pretty much dominating that sector. And we'd like to see them go out and start trading anywhere from a $40, $50 billion valuation, which could show us, a 2x return. getting involved at this price.
So again, Chris, just so everybody has, I guess, the highlights, it's called Automation Anywhere.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have the email sent to you there, so you'll
Okay.
have the pitch book and some recent info on the company.
Okay.
And it's Automation Anywhere. Yep.
All right. And then, folks, as soon as I get that pitch book from Chris, I will email that out, and it will be posted on the OEG portal as well. So Chris, you all have it right now at kind of like $41 a share.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All righty. Great.
So, yeah, it's a really interesting company. Their direct competitor, UiPath, just went public a couple months ago. They traded pretty well off of the direct listing. So if you want to look at their charts and kind of see how they perform from their direct listing and whatnot, Automation Anywhere, we're not entirely sure how they're going to go public, but we could assume that a direct listing is a route for them as well. They've last did a funding round back in 2019, November 2019, which tells us that they have not needed any additional funds, that they've been, well suited in terms of funding. They've been sitting on cash. So that definitely tells us that a direct listing could be an option for them, as they don't need to raise the money within the traditional IPO process.
Okay. Great information, Chris. Folks, just like a few more updates as well. So these updates came from Chris Sullivan of Straight Path Capital Ventures. I talked to Mr. Declan at Forte earlier. As Chris had mentioned for Impossible Foods, because some people got into Impossible Foods underneath of that offering, they are talking about doing a SPAC IPO with Impossible Foods, hopefully fourth quarter this year, maybe first quarter 2022. SpaceX is doing outstanding. SpaceX has been as high as $500 a share, and kind of like the private markets. Still no talks about when it may go IPO, but we got into SpaceX around 200. Flexport, we were in that at $8.40. Is trading in like the private market around $14 to $15. 23andMe, after fees, we are in it around about $8, and they are looking to go public real soon, hopefully fourth quarter. So those are some additional updates. Again, if you are on the call a little bit late, call is being recorded. It will be added up to the YouTube channel, so you can go back there to get any of the updates that you missed. So Chris, we will look forward to like the Automation Anywhere, and as we near closer to liquidation events, I'll be kind of talking with you to see how we can best address how either the funds or the stocks come to the Onyx Equities Group. And if we need to set up, kind of like a brokerage account. I don't think you all do kind of like the brokerage account, so that would have to be some type of third party.
Yeah, so right now we don't have anything, but we do have plans in motion to, it's being processed now with kind of an RIA division, where we can create a brokerage account there. So if there's any liquidation events that happen, once that is set up, we can discuss possibly opening a Onyx account through that, or take it from there. Okay.
All right, so folks on the call, does anyone have any questions for Chris? Any questions for myself? Anything new to bring to the group? Let's not all talk at the same time. Let me see. I'll just go down and just do kind of like a roll call, and you can say, yes, you have something, or no, you don't. I'm just going down my screen as I see folks. So the first one I see is Stewart.
I'm good, Mark. I appreciate
Okay.
it. Thank you, Chris.
No problem. Afia. Afia, are you there? All right. Miss Carolyn, are you there?
I couldn't. Okay, this is Afia. I'm sorry. I couldn't come off of mute. Sorry.
You have anything to add, or you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you for the call though.
No problem. Miss Carolyn?
I'm good.
All right. Mr. Waddy?
Thanks, Mark. I guess my only questions would be, we should probably, as we get closer to any liquidation events, have a conversation about what the numbers look like. I know some of the partners might want estimates to figure out what the gains might look like from a estimated K1 standpoint, so that there's not any big surprises. Normally, I like to recommend for the partnerships, when you have any cash payouts, to reserve a portion of your cash payout for estimated tax payments, or if there are any estimated tax payments that we as an entity need to make on behalf of any of the partners, would be some of the discussions that I say that we need to look at as we get closer to other liquidation events.
Okay. Good advice from our tax expert, Mr. Waddy. Neil? Neil, are you there? Okay, Mr. Quinn?
Hey, what's up, Mark? I don't have anything.
Okay. Wase?
Hey, it's Washe. Just one quick thing. So for most of our pre-IPO investments, we've got like a 6-month holding period after IPO. Is that correct?
Most times. I'll turn it over to Chris. Chris, is that what you are seeing and what we can expect with these offerings?
So that's standard for the traditional IPO, but it differs between, like I said, the direct listing, which is no lockup, a direct offering, which is what Palantir Technologies did, where there was for day one, 20% was released, and then there was a 3-month lockup on the remaining 80%. If it goes a SPAC, it could be anywhere from 30 days to up to, I believe, 10 months via SPAC. But we haven't seen really any companies go that far to the 10 months. Or if they have, they've done staggering where they've released, every 30 days, a portion of the position. So it changes from offer to offer, but traditional IPO, generally speaking, is 180 days max.
Okay. So folks, I think that is a good question, Wase, and something that we should address. Private equity is a long-term play. Not only do you have to hold until you get to like a liquidation events, where it goes from private to public, but then you have typically a lockup period often after it goes IPO. So you have to take that into account when we try to make any of these investments into any of these offerings. All right, any other question? Neil, are you there? Okay, maybe he's having trouble getting off of mute. All righty, well, again, I thank everyone for actually coming out to the meeting. Chris, I thank you for the updates. We will look forward to kind of like the pitch book on like the new offering, and folks, I will get that out to everyone.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.